All right, in three, two, one. We welcome you to another special edition of the Alaska Sports Talk podcast. Interview with head coach Ryan McCarthy as the Lady Seawolves back in town as they get ready to take on the Wildcats of Central Washington and Northwest Nazarene. Coach, glad to have you back here on the show. Split of the road trip. Not always the worst thing on the road.
Yeah, it was rough road trip for us because I had to come out of retirement for practice. My goal is
No,
to never have to
no.
play, and yeah, we got banged up. We had to have Jalen McCullough back with a player who had just come in from New Zealand for the break and try to get her settled academically and stuff. And Tori got a concussion in the first, I think it was the second quarter of
Right.
the SPU game. And so, I mean, we already had eight players as is. And when she went down, it was, or sorry, nine players. And she went down, it became eight. So we were kind of just piecing together that particular game where we didn't really play well in the second half, and then we didn't have very good practice the next day. Just we couldn't go 5-on-5, and so much of what we do is competitive. And you know, that was kind of on us coaches too to not really, anticipate some sort of contingency plan just in case that happened for like short-sighted games and stuff like that. But we got our butts kicked at Billings, and they exposed some things about us that were really good. I mean, I felt like we lost, and I wasn't really that mad after the game because I knew exactly, hey, these are some areas that we need to address tactically. These are some areas that we need to address, and from a preparation standpoint, to get certain players some reps at the five and stuff in Tori's absence. And I just felt like anytime you have a really impactful player like Tori go down, it just kind of it throws you off a little bit. Your vibes just a little bit off, and that kind of happened with us. And so that was the first real adversity that we have hit this year, where we've had different injuries, but never to like one of our top players like her. So it was good. I think we can take a step forward from this. And regardless of the outcome on Thursday, I feel like we've had a better practice. We have a better mentality. And we were able to look at ourselves with a critical eye to be able to move forward.
I was going to ask about the injuries right off the onset because, last home series, Heda Kune, you held her out for those two home games, but back in action this past week, and now without Tori for a game and a half. Well, number one, I'm glad to see that the coaching staff is healthy since you guys had to, use some
Yeah.
coaches. That's good. But, I mean, at this point in the season, I mean, we're getting into February. Like, does that all creep into the back of your mind? I'm glad you're game planning for it now, but I'm obviously this is the point of the season where you want to avoid all injuries at all costs, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we didn't really game plan to not have Tori Hollingshead. I
Yeah.
can tell you that because so much of what we do runs through her. But yeah, I mean, I think every Division II coach, we all know we're a twisted ankle away from getting real humble real quick, and we kind of we experienced that. So we don't have Tori for Thursday's game, and we're prepared for that, or at least as much as we can be. But yeah, I think that that does kind of scare me with a thin roster like we have. And you can recruit one of two ways. You can go get a bunch of max contract kind of players, and you look really good when you're healthy, or you can take a couple project type kids and hope to God that they can produce for you. And I'm just not that guy. I'm gonna roll the dice, and I'm gonna get the best players that we can get. And we're always going to try to compete for a championship. Now we're not going to try to build this 4 years or whatever, because you just never know. And so my philosophy has always been, get the best player you can in free agency and keep building the players in your program. But let's go get the studs, and let's try to keep them healthy and teach them how to compete.
So, kind of just recap last week. What did you like about your game against SPU? Obviously, you guys dominant. You got off to such a great start. You actually got off to a really good start in both games
Yeah.
against SPU and also Montana State Billings. What's up, buddy? You want to say hey to Coach? You want to say hey, Coach McCarthy?
Hi, Coach McCarthy.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
That's my son Landon. So there you go. Give him a shout out on the podcast. All right, but you got off to really good starts. Now Caitlin, you want to say hi?
All
You want to say
right.
okay? Hey,
Two
yeah,
cameos.
yeah, yeah. Two cameos. Yeah, you say hey, yeah. All right. Um, so talk about the starts that you guys had. Obviously, they were fantastic. Obviously, a little bit different outcome against Montana State Billings, but you had to be pleased with the way you at least started the game.
Yeah, I thought we defended well both at the beginning of both games. SPU started out with some steals and some buckets early on, and you know, I think we kind of broke them early. It was kind of like we kind of won the game in the first 3 or 4 minutes in that game, and so that was really helpful, especially with what happened. And SPU played Northwest Nazarene tough, and they played
Right.
Central really tough. The previous week, so we were dialed in on them. We were definitely not looking over that team. And then with Billings, we just knew from day one. I mean, that was kind of the game we had circled on our calendar, and I'm sure they did too, coming off 2 losses. So we had a good physical start to that game, and even offensively, what we were trying to do, we did a good job executing. We had a couple of calls not go our way, and I think it got into some of the players' heads. They were footwork calls, and we didn't really get after him as a coaching staff because we didn't really believe that two of them at least were probably not travel calls. And I think sometimes, especially when it's a young player, I think Ashlyn kind of got taken out a little bit mentally there. And that's a good one for her because the whole year has come so easy for the kid. She's not having a year like most normal freshmen do.
Right.
So it was kind of like, hey, this happens sometimes, kiddo. It's not going to go your way, and you got to be able to respond in the second half. So I think it was a good learning opportunity for her. And but yeah, in terms of the start of the game, I mean, we jumped on them both, and I was really pleased with that. But I think definitely in the second game, we ran out of steam physically and mentally in that game.
Well, how much in that second game came down to just, I mean, depth, right? I mean, your
Yeah.
player's short now. I mean, how much of that actually contributed? You get into the third and fourth quarters, just not having enough go-to players, to come off the bench for you guys.
Yeah, that I mean, and our depth gets hurt too. We had Millie in foul trouble that game kind of early, and that really throws off guard rotation when we have one of our best defenders that we have to sit on the bench and we can't really rotate those because they're the head of the snake in our press. Um, and then I think with Hedda especially too. I mean, Hedda played 53 seconds on purpose against SPU because of her ankle injury, and we already had it won. We weren't going to have her go jeopardize something, and we knew we were going to really need her against MSUB. So I just don't think she was like physically ready
Yeah.
to go. Like, hey, you played 53 seconds. Now please play 26. So yeah, it just caught us off guard in a lot of different areas, and so I think that depth part definitely hurt us.
So coming up this week, you have the Wildcats and Northwest Nazarene. You play the Wildcats tomorrow night on Thursday. You last played them on January 4th. You won 68, 61, something around that neighborhood. Looking at your two squads on paper, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like you guys are very similar.
Yeah.
Similar, at least statistically, just looking at it on paper. What have you seen and already having played them once and scouting them again over the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, we're similar in a lot of ways, and I think we couldn't be any more different than in two ways. They don't go deep at all. They're going to play like seven kids, maybe six against us, depending on how they handle the press. And we shoot the least amount of threes by a country mile, and they shoot the most. But in terms of like they're a system team, they've got great guard play, so there are a lot of similarities in terms of like how we match up with them and what we're I just think from a tactical standpoint, we're trying to do two different things. They're trying to win the math game in threes versus twos, and we're trying to win the math game of just total possessions. So it's the same and different in a couple of ways. But yeah, they're a hard matchup because they can throw three elite 3-point shooters on the floor, and they're just trying to break you down to create that kind of domino effect where they get one domino to fall and they try to keep that advantage the whole time by just moving the ball around the horn. So our big thing that we've been working on is trying to keep people in front and just KYP, know your personnel on the scouting report, where we're trying to force people and who we believe we can trap. Let's say we call it melts, but the kids that will melt in a trap and the kids that we're just going to switch and just keep them in front and hold the fort down. So that to me is going to be a big thing. We always have tight games with these guys. I hate playing both of these two teams. So, it should be a good game.
Well, how much of your game plan changes? Because I mean, you guys play twice a year, obviously. I mean, do you hold stuff back in that first meeting that you know you're saving for later on? I mean, how much do you employ new strategy, if any new strategy at all, when you play in the second time around?
We will. They guarded Elena particularly really different. They guarded her like the kid averages 55 points a game, so there was just like zero help side off of that. So that, we can put them in a couple situations from like a tactical standpoint, set wise, where you use that kid as a screener and you're going to decide either give us a layup or you're going to have to help off this kid.
Right.
So we've worked a lot on that. So I think that, Tori didn't have a very good game against them the first time we played. I think she only had like 4 points or something like that. And that was kind of a turning point game where we had like a come to Jesus talk with Tori about like how you got to be physical and that kind of stuff. But we had very good guard play in that game, and I felt like we went through probably 32 minutes of guarding Sunny Huerta exactly how we wanted to guard her. And the 8 minutes that we didn't, she absolutely torched us. So, there's some things that we definitely need to clean up. And I'm sure they're probably, saying the same thing. But I think it will come down to guard play in this. As much as we're trying to pound it inside all the time, will we be able to, defend their guards and not get burned when we're out there gambling?
So on the other side of this, on the back end, you guys take on Northwest Nazarene on Saturday in the second game of the weekend. Is it any different for you? I feel like I've asked you this before when you've played Northwest Nazarene, but is it just different when you take on a team that you formerly played for at the University of Northwest Nazarene and then also coach for as well? It seems like forever ago now, but um, is it any different for you? Like, does your mindset change? Like, do you want to beat them more, less? I don't know. Is it just it's Northwest Nazarene? That's part of your life or was part of your life?
Yeah, I think early in my career, that was a game that, I was like, I want to prove that, I can do this now. And,
Right.
now that it's kind of settled in, there's a lot of new faces at NNU. They got no, I mean, we walked down and it used to be, I'd know everybody and say everybody. And now it's like, one of the old professors of theology recognizes me or something and, has a conversation, or one of the old boosters, so it's nice. But I mean, when we play these guys, they're just another good team for us. And, their coaches, Steve, he's done a good job there of, they've had a couple really, really elite runs in our league, and they're another team that's in the mix this year. I think they always are because of their style. And so, yeah, I don't have like a special ambition to beat them, but I will say it never gets old.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. That is true. Uh, Second half of the GNAC season coming up. You guys are one game ahead in the GNAC standings, going into the final stretch run here of the regular season. Couple of things. How do you feel about your team going to the second half of the conference season? And have you mentioned the importance, of not just this weekend's games, but every weekend coming up here for the next 3 weeks, because everybody's gunning for you now here in the second half of the season?
Yeah. It- it's kind of you know, it's important, I should say. We talk about it a lot, but one thing supersedes all of that, and it's not like it's new for us, which is good. We're not talking about, oh, it's so important from here on out, because we made goals at the beginning of the season where we're in a position, so long as we accomplish our goals, which have been the most important to us from the beginning. And one of those is to go undefeated at home, and we have it on a whiteboard. So every time we don't get a goal, we have to go up there and we have to erase it. And it's a big deal. And so one of those is undefeated at home. And you know, we were playing Western Washington. That was something I had to remind them about at halftime, was like, hey, we keep playing like this and we're not going to beat these guys. And you're going to have to go over to that board that you have win the GNAC championship on. And right below that is go undefeated at home. You have to erase that second one. And you said it's just as important. So that's where we're at right now. I mean, it's very important, these games, definitely, from, the mathematical standings and all that kind of stuff. But, I think what supersedes any of that was that at the beginning of the year, we said that we weren't going to lose a home game. And, that's part about being a championship team. You got to take care of business at home.
Well, and is that why you guys took so long in the locker room that game? Like, I felt like you guys were in the locker room like forever. in that
Yeah.
Western Washington game. So I'm like, where's the team? Like Vikings are out on the floor for the second half warm-ups, and you guys come running out like with like 10 seconds left. So now I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. All right, all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Um, give me a couple of keys for success this weekend for you guys if you are going to have success against the Wildcats and also the Nighthawks as well.
The press has to be something that is our benefit and not our detractor in our path to winning. I think that our effort has to be so much better than it was last week in either game. I didn't think our effort was like that championship caliber. And with our focus on personnel against Central, I think they're not going to do all these crazy sets and put you in, weird spots. They just do what they do, and we've got to keep people in front and limit 3-pointers because they're trying to do that. And that's hard because we're going to gamble doing that. We're not going to sit there and play a boring game where we just sit in gaps, and we're going to trap them, and we're going to try to turn them over and create advantages in the transition game to get into their depth. So it attacks them from multiple areas. So I think that's going to be really important that, the game moves at our pace, and that I just told our team, the team that punishes their body the most is going to win. And so against Central, they're only willing to use 6 or 7. We're going to use everybody, which is 8, but we're going to use them. We're going to use everybody. And then against Northwest Nazarene, they play real similar to us. Our game was like, it set basketball back, I think, 25 years, and we played them the first go around. I think they had like 31 or 34 turnovers, and we had
Right.
like 25 or something like that. It was super ugly. We got to take care of the ball against them. They're trying to score more from the inside. They have a very good post player in Kendall Clark, and we got to make sure that we did a very good job against her the first go round. We'll have Tori back, fingers crossed in that game. So we have zero excuse on how tired we are or whatever against Northwest Nazarene. We just got to take care of the ball against them and create turnovers on our end. So I think those are the most important keys, I think, in both of those games.
I want to leave with a couple of fun questions. I wanted to start off with a couple of fun questions or what I thought was fun, but we kind of got right into the basketball thing, which is awesome. Number one, all right, I was doing some research. I don't know how I came across this, but um, if I was to mention the name Mark Drake, what would you think immediately? Oh, see, I see the face. I see the face already. So if I say Mark Drake, your first thought is
My team won more than his. uh,
fair, fair.
they it's crazy. I probably know way more than I should about him. He probably more than he cares to even know about me, but they signed him over me. And my dream was to play at UAA, and they never recruited me. And so I had it out for his head when we played, and it was one of the reasons I chose NNU was so that I could be in the league of UAA. So I came from a Catholic background. I had no Protestant. My grandma was pissed I went to NNU. So yeah, I think it's all
I,
good now,
yeah,
right?
no, I'm
We're,
sure.
we're all
Yeah, right,
Seawolves now, but
right.
yeah, no, that was a big motivator for me during my career was, like seeing his success. And I think I was a year behind him because of I redshirted and he didn't. But that was just a really big motivator for me. So a lot of my success, thank you, Mark Drake, for my collegiate career that way. So yeah.
I don't know where I was looking up and saw information, but something you mentioned Mark's name one way or the
Yeah.
other. I was like, what? They were around the same time, and I had to go back and start looking around. I'm like, whoa, wow, it was right around the same time. So it
He
was
was a
just
good player.
wild.
He could shoot it.
He
Yeah, he could
could.
shoot
He
it.
could shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I broadcast games with Mark Drake for a couple of years, so it was just kind of funny that those two kind of intertwined. All right, my final one: true or false? You may have drank a beer when you were playing in Germany during a game.
Yeah, a swig of it. Yeah, I didn't
I
have the
swear.
full
Okay.
beer, but
All
yeah.
right.
My dad was there for a game, and we were playing kind of a derby or a rivalry game. And it was the first time my dad had seen me play over there. And I coached an amateur team at that point in time. They were like the college age guys. And the first 100 liters of beer were free to the fans because of a sponsorship that we had. So I had a really good game. There was like a 2-on-1 situation, and they're, I can hear my guys like they would wear scarves and they would just bring these big green crates of beer into the game and just get hammered. And they were the best fans ever. So I come down and I shoot like a 2-on-1 3, and I just turned around and one of the guys had a beer and I took it from his hand and I took a drink of it and I threw it back to him and they just went nuts. Yeah,
That's awesome.
it was pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. But you never drink before the games like your teammates did, right?
No, no.
Oh,
My
okay.
first tournament, I just got off the plane and I got in the playbook and everything. And I'm thinking like I'm not gonna play the first day of this tournament. And my coach is like, hey, you're you're starting. And so yeah, I was like, oh, okay, so
Okay.
I'm starting. And so we play the game, and after the game, um we go out and there's like teams. It was like kind of a Euro Cup situation. So there was teams from like all over Europe. It wasn't just Germany, it was like everywhere. And there was this just kind of big, like, I don't know, outdoor bar kind of thing. So like a couple Serbian guys on my team have like they're smoking cigs and they're drinking beer, and a couple Germans like, hey, do you want to get a beer? I'm like, no,
We got
we
a
have a
game.
game. Yeah, I'm like, no way. So I call my dad and I'm telling him, like, you would never believe this. He's like, oh yeah, have you heard of Vlade Divac? Like he'd smoke a pack, like, holy smoke, I'm in a
Uh,
different world here.
that's wild. Oh, fun
Yeah,
times. Oh, fun times. All right. I just had to ask those. I thought they were fun questions. So
yeah,
good stuff.
yeah.
Good stuff. All right. This weekend, Seawolves are in action 5:15, 7:30, 5:15 against Central Washington on Thursday. And then on Saturday, they're the nightcap at 7:30 at the Alaska Airlines Center. You can get your tickets online at goseawolves.com. Coach, thanks for joining us here on the show tonight.
Yeah, thank you so
All
much.
right. Appreciate it.